Average is where most people live, not because they want to, but because it's easy to stay there. Average requires no courage. It requires no decision. It requires no standards. You simply wake up, follow routines you never questioned, accept limits you never challenged, and slowly become a copy of everyone around you. Average is not a failure of talent. It is a failure of choice. Look around at how people spend their time. Same conversations, same complaints, same goals talked about but never acted on, same excuses recycled year after year. That's not coincidence. That's the gravity of average pulling everyone toward the middle. It's comfortable there. It's familiar. And that's exactly why it's crowded. When something is crowded, it has no value. Nobody pays attention to what is common. Nobody respects what is replaceable. If you live an average life, the world treats you like an average option. You are ignored, overlooked, and easily substituted. Not because you lack potential, but because you chose familiarity over separation. Most people don't realize they're average because average feels normal. Everyone around them is doing the same thing, so it feels justified. They compare themselves to people who are struggling the same way and call it balance. But normal doesn't mean right. Normal just means common. And common never builds anything exceptional. Average is loud. It is full of opinions, distractions, trends, and noise. Everyone talks. Everyone reacts. Everyone has advice. And very few people are actually building anything. When you live in average, you spend more time explaining yourself than improving yourself. You spend more time consuming than creating. You stay busy but not effective. The crowd will always try to keep you average, not intentionally, not maliciously, but subconsciously. When you start changing, it threatens the comfort of those who stayed the same. So they joke, they doubt, they minimize. They say you're doing too much. What they really mean is you're doing more than them, and it makes them uncomfortable. To become the exception, you must leave the crowd early, not physically but mentally. You must stop letting average behavior define what feels acceptable. You must stop measuring yourself against people who aren't building the life you want. If you use average as your reference point, average will always be your ceiling. Average habits produce average outcomes. Sleeping in feels normal. Skipping discipline feels justified. Procrastination feels harmless. Distraction feels deserved. None of it feels dangerous in the moment. That's why average is so effective at trapping people. It doesn't hurt loudly. It dulls quietly. Exceptional people don't do extreme things occasionally. They do uncommon things consistently. They wake up when others delay. They work when others relax. They train when others complain. Not because they are obsessed, but because they refuse to blend in. They understand that every small choice either moves them closer to the crowd or further away from it. The moment you step away from average, friction appears. Things feel harder. Loneliness shows up. Doubt gets louder. That's not a sign you're wrong. That's proof you're leaving the middle. Average never resists. It welcomes. Growth resists because it demands change. Average loves excuses that sound reasonable. I'm tired. I'll start next week. I'm busy. Life is hard. Everyone in the crowd says the same thing, so it feels validated. The exception hears those same excuses and refuses to obey them. Not because they don't feel them, but because they don't let feelings decide their future. You cannot become exceptional by following a path designed for everyone. Systems built for the majority will always produce majority results. If you want a rare outcome, your behavior must look strange to normal people. You must be willing to look excessive, intense, or obsessed before results justify it. Average is crowded because it asks nothing of you. The exception demands everything: focus, discipline, sacrifice, responsibility. That's why so few people choose it. Not because they can't, but because they won't. The crowd will always be there if you want to return. Average never closes its doors, but the path to becoming the exception requires you to step away while others stay comfortable, to choose effort while others choose ease, to build standards while others build excuses, and to accept that the moment you stop blending in is the moment your life stops being invisible and starts becoming something people notice, question, and eventually respect, even if they never admit it out loud. Nothing separates you from the crowd faster than standards. Not goals, not motivation, not talent. Standards. Standards decide what you tolerate, what you reject, and what you refuse to compromise on even when nobody is watching. Most people don't fail because they aim too low. They fail because they allow too much. Average people live by convenience. Exceptional people live by standards. That difference alone determines everything. Standards decide how early you wake up, how hard you work, how seriously you train, how you speak to yourself, and what behavior you allow to repeat. When standards are low, excuses thrive. When standards are high, excuses die quickly. Most people don't consciously choose low standards. They drift into them. They accept small compromises because they seem harmless. Skip one workout, delay one task, accept one distraction, lower effort just this once. Over time, those small decisions become a lifestyle, and that lifestyle feels normal because it's repeated daily. Normal doesn't mean effective. It just means familiar. High standards feel uncomfortable at first because they demand consistency. They don't care about mood or circumstance. A high standard does not ask how you feel today. It asks who you decided to be. That's why people resist standards. Standards remove flexibility, and flexibility is where excuses hide. The moment you raise your standards, separation begins. You start doing what others avoid. You stop accepting behavior that once felt normal. You move differently. You think differently. You respond differently. And people notice, not always positively. Because high standards expose low ones. People will call you intense when you raise standards. They will say you're doing too much. They will say life is meant to be enjoyed. What they really mean is your discipline highlights their lack of it. Your structure challenges their chaos. Your consistency makes their inconsistency visible. Standards don't require talent. They require honesty, honest self-evaluation, honest accountability, honest effort. Anyone can say they want success. Very few are willing to enforce the standards required to achieve it. That enforcement is where separation happens. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your standards. When pressure hits, when motivation fades, when life gets hard, standards are what remain. If your standards are negotiable, your results will be too. Exceptional people remove negotiation from important behaviors. Training happens, work gets done, focus is protected. No debate. High standards simplify life. They remove decision fatigue. You stop asking whether to do the work. You already decided. That clarity creates momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence creates consistency, and consistency compounds into results that look extraordinary to people who never enforce standards in the first place. Low standards feel kind. They feel forgiving. They feel understanding, but they are cruel in the long run. They keep you stuck in cycles of almost disciplined, almost focused, almost successful. High standards feel harsh at first, but they are merciful over time. They build capability. They build self-respect. They build trust in yourself. The exception is not someone who tries harder occasionally. The exception is someone who refuses to tolerate mediocrity in their daily behavior. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't adjust standards to match mood. They adjust effort to meet standards. Raising standards will cost you comfort. It will cost you convenience. It may cost you certain relationships, but it will give you something far more valuable in return: control. Control over your time. Control over your habits. Control over your direction. You cannot separate yourself from the crowd without standards that the crowd is unwilling to follow. If your standards are the same as everyone else's, your results will be too. Separation is not loud. It's quiet. It happens in routines, in discipline, in choices nobody applauds. Standards also protect you. They protect you from wasting time, from emotional decisions, from short-term pleasure that costs long-term progress. When standards are clear, distractions lose power. Temptation loses leverage. You don't need willpower when standards are enforced. Becoming the exception is not about proving anything to others. It's about refusing to betray yourself. It's about deciding that your future deserves more than excuses and your potential deserves more than comfort. Standards are the line between intention and identity. They define who you are long before results show it. The crowd lives by what feels acceptable. The exception lives by what is required. And that difference, applied daily without compromise, is what creates separation so wide that one day people will call you lucky, unaware that what they're really seeing is the result of standards you enforced long before success made them visible. Talent is common, motivation is common, ambition is common, discipline is rare, and rarity is what creates value. The reason discipline makes you rare is because it demands consistency when excitement disappears. Anyone can feel driven on day 1. Very few people show up on day 30, day 60, day 300, when progress feels slow and nobody is watching. Discipline is the ability to do what must be done regardless of emotion. It is choosing structure over impulse, responsibility over comfort, execution over explanation. Most people believe they are disciplined until life removes motivation. That's when the truth shows up. Discipline is not proven when things feel good. It is proven when quitting feels justified. The world is full of people waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel confident, waiting to feel inspired. Disciplined people don't wait. They act first and let feelings catch up later. That alone creates separation. While others hesitate, disciplined people move. While others think disciplined people build, discipline is uncomfortable because it exposes weakness. It forces you to face yourself without distraction. When you sit down to work, instead of scrolling, your mind looks for escape. When you train instead of rest, your body resists. When you focus instead of procrastinate, excuses get loud. Discipline does not silence resistance. It teaches you to move despite it. Most people misunderstand discipline as punishment. They see it as restriction, as pressure, as loss of freedom. The truth is, discipline is liberation. Without discipline, you are controlled by mood, appetite, distraction, and impulse. With discipline, you control your actions regardless of circumstance. That control is power. Discipline compounds quietly. One early morning turns into a routine. One completed task turns into momentum. One finished week turns into belief. Over time, discipline builds an identity. You stop trying to be consistent. You become consistent. And that identity becomes unshakable because it was built through action, not intention. The rarest people are not the most gifted. They are the most reliable. They do what they say they will do. They show up when it's boring. They stay focused when it's repetitive. They keep standards high when nobody is enforcing them. That reliability is what creates trust in yourself, and trust in yourself is the foundation of confidence. Discipline also creates distance. When you live disciplined, your schedule looks different. Your habits look different. Your priorities look different. And over time, your results look different. That difference separates you from the crowd without you needing to announce anything. Results speak. Discipline whispers until it roars. Most people quit because they negotiate with discomfort. They tell themselves they deserve a break before they've earned progress. Discipline refuses negotiation. It sets non-negotiables. Training happens, work gets done, focus is protected, not because it's easy, but because it's required. Being disciplined means sacrificing short-term pleasure for long-term gain. That trade scares people who live moment to moment. They want the feeling now. Disciplined people want the outcome later, and that patience creates leverage. While others chase dopamine, disciplined people chase mastery. Discipline is lonely at first. There's no applause for consistency, no praise for repetition, no recognition for doing what you said you would do. That's why most people don't last. They need validation. Disciplined people validate themselves through execution. You don't need more willpower. You need fewer decisions. Discipline removes decision-making from important behaviors. You don't decide whether to work. You decide it already. You don't decide whether to train. It's part of who you are. That simplicity makes discipline sustainable. Discipline is built in small moments. Choosing to start when it's inconvenient. Choosing to finish when it's tedious. Choosing to stay focused when distraction is easy. Those moments don't feel heroic, but they are everything. They are the bricks that build an exceptional life. The reason discipline makes you rare is because it forces you to live intentionally, while most people live reactively. You stop letting the day decide for you. You decide first. That proactive mindset compounds faster than talent ever could. If you want to become the exception, discipline is not optional. It is the price of entry. Without it, everything else collapses. With it, everything becomes possible. Discipline doesn't promise comfort. It promises capability. And capability is what allows you to stand apart in a world full of potential that never followed through, an effort that never lasted, an ambition that was never backed by action, and goals that were talked about endlessly but never respected enough to be enforced consistently enough to produce persistently invisible long before discipline, visible long before success, makes it undeniable. Every exceptional life is built on a foundation most people refuse to stand on. Pain, not the dramatic kind that earns sympathy, but the quiet daily discomfort that nobody applauds. The early mornings, the long hours, the constant pressure, the moments where quitting feels reasonable and rest feels deserved. This is the toll. And if you are unwilling to pay it, you never cross the line that separates ordinary from exceptional. Most people are not weak. They are pain avoidant. They design their lives to minimize discomfort and then wonder why their lives feel small. Growth demands friction. Strength requires resistance. Clarity comes from struggle. Pain is not a sign you are failing. Pain is evidence you are moving in a direction most people are too afraid to go. The world has trained people to see pain as something to escape, to numb it, to distract from it, to medicate it away. But pain has a message. It reveals limits. It exposes excuses. It shows you exactly where your edge is. And that edge is where transformation lies. If you never touch it, you never change. Exceptional people do not enjoy pain. They respect it. They understand that pain is temporary, but regret is permanent. They choose short-term suffering to avoid long-term disappointment. They choose discipline over comfort, effort over ease, pressure over passivity. Not because it feels good, but because it leads somewhere worth going. Pain strips away illusion. When things hurt, you find out who you really are. Your values stop being theoretical. Your priorities become visible. You stop pretending. You either rise or retreat. And every time you choose to stay, you build proof. Proof that you can handle more than you thought. Proof that you are not as fragile as fear made you believe. The reason most people never become the exception is because they turn back too early. They feel resistance and assume it means stop. They feel tired and assume it means quit. They feel overwhelmed and assume it means they are not built for this. Exceptional people interpret pain differently. They see it as confirmation. If it hurts, it matters. Pain is the gatekeeper. It stands at the entrance of every meaningful outcome and asks a simple question. How bad do you want this? Not with words, but with pressure. Not once, but repeatedly. And each time you pay the toll, the crowd behind you gets thinner. There is a moment in every journey where motivation dies, where inspiration disappears, where progress slows and effort feels heavy. That moment is not a mistake, it is the test. Pain arrives to separate those who want results from those who only like the idea of them. When you learn to sit with pain instead of running from it, you gain an advantage most people never develop. Emotional control. You stop reacting. You stop complaining. You stop dramatizing discomfort. You execute anyway. That calm under pressure is what makes you dangerous in competitive environments and unstoppable in personal ones. Pain also teaches patience. It reminds you that nothing valuable comes instantly. That mastery takes time. That building something real requires endurance. While others chase shortcuts, you stay the course. While others burn out, you adapt. While others look for relief, you look for progress. The toll never disappears. It only changes form. New levels bring new pressure. Bigger goals demand bigger sacrifices. But once you understand the role pain plays, you stop fearing it. You stop asking when it will end. You stop waiting for things to get easier. You get stronger instead. The exception is not someone who avoided suffering. The exception is someone who used it. Someone who let pain sharpen focus instead of breaking spirit. Someone who paid the toll repeatedly without asking for a refund. Someone who understood that comfort is the enemy of potential and ease is the fastest way to stay exactly where you are while telling yourself stories about why now is not the right time and someday you will start and eventually things will change without you ever having to endure the discomfort required to earn a different outcome. If you want an average life, live like everyone else. Follow the routine, chase comfort, protect your feelings, and avoid risk. But if you want an exceptional life, understand this early and clearly. You must give up what most people are addicted to. Time, comfort, approval, balance, excuses. These are the currencies of mediocrity, and the exceptional pay with something else entirely. Sacrifice is not a motivational word. It is a lifestyle decision. It means saying no when everyone else says yes. It means walking away from distractions that feel harmless but slowly drain your potential. It means choosing the long road when shortcuts are available. It means being misunderstood while you are building something people cannot yet see. Most people say they want success, but they are not willing to sacrifice the habits that keep them small. They want better results without changing their routines. They want freedom without discipline. They want rewards without responsibility. Exceptional people make a different trade. They sacrifice temporary pleasure for permanent leverage. Sacrifice shows up when nobody is watching, when the phone is buzzing and the work is unfinished, when the invitation is tempting and the goal is demanding, when rest feels deserved but effort is still required. These moments define your future more than any dramatic decision ever will. You cannot become the exception by fitting in. Fitting in requires conformity, and conformity kills ambition. To rise, you must separate yourself. Different schedule, different priorities, different standards, different tolerance for discomfort. That separation feels lonely at first, but loneliness is often the sound of growth. People will question your choices. They will call you extreme, obsessed, unbalanced. They will tell you to slow down, to enjoy life, to relax. What they really mean is that your discipline makes them uncomfortable. Your focus exposes their distractions. Your sacrifice reminds them of what they are avoiding. Exceptional people accept this without resentment. They understand that approval is expensive. If you buy it, you pay with your potential. If you refuse it, you gain independence. You stop needing permission to pursue what matters to you. You stop negotiating with doubt. You move forward quietly, consistently. Relentlessly. Sacrifice also means delayed gratification. It means building now for rewards later. It means planting seeds you may not see grow for years. While others chase quick wins, you invest in skills, habits, and systems that compound over time. This patience creates an unshakable foundation. Every hour you spend mastering your craft while others are scrolling builds a gap. Every workout you complete while others skip builds a gap. Every disciplined choice you make while others rationalize builds a gap. That gap becomes your advantage. That advantage becomes your freedom. Sacrifice forces clarity. When your time and energy are limited, you become selective. You stop wasting effort on things that do not move the needle. You cut out noise. You eliminate excuses. You focus on what actually matters. This focus accelerates progress in ways motivation never could. There is no such thing as balance at the beginning of greatness. Balance is a luxury earned after leverage is built. In the early stages, imbalance is necessary. You push harder, you go further, you commit deeper. This season is not forever, but it is essential. People who refuse sacrifice often justify it with comfort stories. They say life is about enjoyment, that there is no need to push so hard. That ambition is stressful. What they do not realize is that unfulfilled potential creates a deeper, longer-lasting stress, one that follows you into old age. Exceptional people sacrifice now so they do not have to later. They endure pressure early so they can live with options later. They work when it is hard so life can be easier on their terms. This is not arrogance. It is strategy. The price of becoming the exception is paid daily, quietly, consistently. It is paid in missed parties, early mornings, late nights, disciplined routines, and relentless standards. Most people are unwilling to make these trades, which is exactly why the rewards remain rare and reserved for those who understand that everything extraordinary demands a cost, and that cost must be paid before the reward ever shows itself, and while everyone else is still waiting for permission, motivation, or the perfect moment that never arrives. There comes a moment in every person's life where excuses stop working. A moment where motivation fades, inspiration runs dry, and all that remains is truth. Not the truth you tell others, but the truth you live with in silence. The truth that your life is the direct result of your decisions, not your intentions. This is the moment where paths split, and most people don't even realize it happened. The world does not remember potential. It remembers results. It does not reward effort. It rewards outcomes. You can work hard in the wrong direction and still end up nowhere. You can stay busy, stressed, exhausted, and still be average. The difference between those who are remembered and those who are replaced is not luck. It is decision. Becoming the exception begins with a brutal decision to stop lying to yourself. To stop pretending that tomorrow will be different if today stays the same. To stop blaming circumstances, people, timing, and systems for a life you secretly know you could push further if you were willing to be uncomfortable. Most people drift. They wake up, react, consume, complain, repeat. They never decide who they want to become. They let the environment decide for them. Their friends shape their habits. Their fears shape their limits. Their comfort shapes their ambition. And then they wonder why years pass without change. The exception decides early and decisively, not emotionally, strategically. They decide that mediocrity is unacceptable. That average is too expensive. That being forgotten is not an option. This decision changes everything because once it is made, excuses no longer have authority. When you decide to be the exception, you stop negotiating with weakness. You stop asking yourself how you feel and start asking what must be done. You stop waiting for clarity and create it through action. You stop hoping for confidence and build it through proof. This decision is lonely. You will outgrow people. You will feel misunderstood. You will feel pressure from those who benefit from you staying small, not because they are evil, but because your growth disrupts their comfort. Your discipline exposes their avoidance. Your progress challenges their excuses. Many people will try to pull you back. They will remind you of who you used to be. They will tell you you're changing. They will say you're doing too much, too serious, too intense. What they really fear is being left behind. The exception accepts this cost. They understand that belonging to everyone means committing to nothing. They choose isolation over dilution. They choose purpose over popularity. They choose respect over approval. Decision also means ownership, total ownership. No blaming the past, no resenting the present, no fearing the future. Everything becomes feedback. Loss becomes a lesson. Failure becomes data. Pain becomes fuel. This mindset turns obstacles into advantages. When you decide fully, you move differently. You wake up with intent. You train with purpose. You speak with clarity. You execute without drama. You no longer need external validation because your standards are internal. You measure yourself against what you know you're capable of, not against what others are doing. Being forgotten is easy. It requires no effort, just comfort, just distraction, just delay. The world is full of people who almost tried, who nearly committed, who were just about to change. Their names disappear because they never decided when it mattered. Greatness is not loud at the beginning. It is quiet. It is repetitive. It is boring to those who crave entertainment, but it compounds. And one day, that quiet discipline turns into undeniable presence. The exception does not wait for permission. They do not wait for conditions to improve. They do not wait to feel ready. They decide, and then they build readiness through action. Every day you wake up, you are voting. Voting for the life you want or the life you tolerate. Voting for discipline or distraction, for growth or stagnation, for being remembered or being replaced. These votes are cast in silence through routine, through consistency, through the small choices nobody applauds. There is no halfway version of being the exception. You are either all in or you are invisible. The world makes room for those who decide fully and apply pressure daily. Everyone else becomes background noise. This is the moment where you stop listening passively and start choosing actively. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when motivation hits. Now. Decide who you are going to be and let your actions become so consistent that doubt has no space to speak and comfort has no room to negotiate, and the path forward becomes so clear that even fear understands it has already lost, and the only remaining option is forward movement without hesitation or apology. Everything you've heard comes down to one truth. Nothing changes until you do. Not your circumstances, not your confidence, not your future. The world will not slow down, explain itself, or make space for you out of sympathy. It only responds to pressure. Standards and results being the exception is not about hype or temporary motivation. It is about deciding once and for all that average is no longer acceptable. It is about choosing discipline over comfort, sacrifice over convenience, ownership over excuses. It is about understanding that every small decision you make is either building you up or quietly dismantling your potential. Most people will hear messages like this and feel inspired for a moment, then return to the same routines, the same distractions, the same patterns that keep them invisible. The exception listens differently. They don't ask how to feel motivated. They ask how to execute. They don't wait for permission. They move. You now know why average is crowded, why comfort is dangerous, why sacrifice is necessary, why consistency matters more than talent, why decision is the true dividing line between those who are remembered and those who are replaced. From this moment forward, there is no confusion. You either live with intent or drift by default. You either raise your standards or accept your limits. You either become the exception or you blend into the background with everyone else who almost tried. The choice is not dramatic. It's quiet. It's daily. It's built in routines no one applauds and discipline no one sees. But over time, those choices compound into something undeniable. Decide now. Move now, commit fully. Let your actions speak so loudly that doubt, fear, and excuses have no place left to stand. Become the exception.